In the wake of the Parkland school shooting, teenage survivors of the attack are pressing lawmakers to make changes to gun laws. But anger over the shooting has also led some investors to start asking what role they can play in changing how gun and ammunition manufacturers behave. Financial firms like BlackRock and Bank of America are now taking a new look at their investments in the companies who manufacture firearms. And as we mentioned earlier, pressure from gun control advocates has led a growing number of companies to sever ties with the National Rifle Association. For more, I'm joined by Rob Cox, a columnist and global editor with Reuters Breaking Views. Thanks for joining us. So just today, in the last 24, 48 hours, we've seen a lot of activity, a lot of big kind of household name brands start to say that I'm not going to give NRA members perhaps a discount to go to an event or to use some of my services. Is this different than what's happened before?
Yeah, I think this is different. And what you're starting to see is that people who want a change in gun laws are using the power of the purse. It's not just Twitter, but it's actually they're saying on Twitter and on social media that they're no longer going to give custom to these companies that work very closely with the NRA. Now, you're talking about rental car firms, hotel, lodging companies, insurance companies. I'm not sure that's going to have a material effect on the NRA, on their budgets, but it's part of a movement. And you have to think back, all social movements or civil rights movements, they always have some sort of economic protest or financial boycott, some element of that when they are successful. Going all the way back to suffragette, going to the divestment in South Africa is probably the most analogous one. And we're starting to see that happening. And if you have a majority of Americans right now, just if you look at the Quinnipiac poll that was out in the last week that said 67% of those polled are in favor of banning assault weapons or AR-15s. And therefore, if you think about it, a majority of the American consumer is a really powerful economic tool. And so I think that's starting to be harnessed by the gun violence prevention movement.
After the massacre at Sandy Hook, you saw the parents were motivated. You saw the country start to think about these things. I remember a couple of big pension funds pulled out of money that they controlled and whether they supported it. Most people in America don't know who BlackRock is and what kind of influence they have. So again, they are invested through index funds, so they're not necessarily just automatic shareholders. But explain.
Most of the growth in fund management over the past couple of years has actually been in index funds. So you say, I'm going to buy the Russell 2000 of small companies. I'm going to buy the S&P 500. So then BlackRock, which is the largest, $6 trillion of assets under management. So a lot of money. And then second, Vanguard. Both of them then have to replicate that index. So they end up buying Vista or American Outdoor, which owns Smith & Wesson, which manufactured the gun that was used to massacre 17 students and their teachers in Parkland. And Sturm Ruger. They buy these companies because they have to. Now, there's also another element, movement, as it were, in the financial markets or in the investing world towards what they call ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So a lot of, and millennials in particular, who are your future customers if you're a BlackRock or a Vanguard, they are very much driven by social purpose. So I think you're starting to see this, it's almost a conflict. On the one hand, you have index funds where all the money's going. On the other hand, you have a movement towards making sure that your money's going to companies that provide a broader social benefit. And that's all starting to sort of rubber meeting the road with BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, who is one of the most powerful people in finance, wrote a letter just a month and a half ago to CEOs saying that your companies must actually provide a net social benefit to society. And this is a big change because now he's stuck with owning these big companies or owning big stakes in these gun companies, but at the same time having to kind of make good on his promise. And that is really going to start to push for change. It won't be divestment, I don't think, in the way that we saw in the 1980s with South Africa, which was just get out. IBM does business there. We're selling our IBM stock. IBM then finally pulls its business from South Africa. Apartheid falls. I think what we're going to see here is more engagement.
Rob Cox of Reuters Breaking Views, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.